Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people that want the best info, but just don't have the time. Get your podcast fix with the Cliff Notes versions of your favorite podcasts. No fluff, just the actionable golden nuggets. Having this much knowledge at your fingertips should be downright illegal. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with Satori Prime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Performance Enhancing Podcast with your host, Ilan Ferdman. Today, we're going to be delving into part 2 of Beer Talk 5.0, or as you may have heard in part 1, probably 5.2, because I lost the original 5.0. But in any event, in part 1, we discussed how we deal with major issues, failures, difficult conversations. We talk about something very personal. And in part 2, we talk about the power of pursuing your passion. We actually look at how the way that you can serve the world, and by the world, I mean your family, your friends, your community, and the world as a whole, is by actually pursuing your passion. And we break down what that looks like, and also give a couple of examples of how easy it is. Well, I shouldn't say easy, but how simple of a process it is to actually pursue your passion and have that be the driving force in your life for both fulfillment, obviously, but mostly for padding your bank account in a very, very nice way. And we've been using this line recently, which is, most of the people that we talk to hate their jobs, hate being away from their families, hate being away from their kids, all that kind of stuff. But they're not really doing anything about it. And so we've enacted this line like, look, the next 3 to 5 years of your life are coming this way or that way. The only difference is, what are you going to do during those 3 to 5 years that can set you on a different path? Now, we're not promising you that you're going to make millions in the next 6 months. I think that's completely unrealistic. But can you build a very, very successful business in 3 to 5 years? 100%. And more than that, you can build a business that you're absolutely in love with. One that you will jump out of bed and be willing to work 18 hours at, unequivocally, with no one having to force you, right? Even if you didn't make any money. So that's really what we're going to delve into in part 2, how we go about that, the kind of conversations we have with people, how to structure things like that. So hopefully you enjoy part 2 as much as you did part 1. Okay, so like I said to you guys before, what I had experienced this past weekend was I went to a wedding with, this is actually a friend of my wife's, and met some new people, had some old friends that we'd known. And everyone inevitably, when they meet you at some point or another, always ask me what I do. And so the answer is always developing. I'm as a marketer, I split test. So I always split test different ways to explain it to someone, because I'm clear that what we deliver is massively valuable. The one thing that I think Guy and I are trying to figure out is how to explain to someone, anyone, so clearly what we do so that they're like, damn, I want to do that. Or damn, I want to work with you, or whatever, however that is, right? So I'm going to bring up this one particular conversation I had with this guy who, at the end of the conversation, basically looked at me and said, Ilan, you just completely changed my life. And we had spoken for maybe 10, 15 minutes. Okay. So just to give you kind of a little bit of insight, the guy is a master at anything agricultural. So farming, landscaping. I mean, he's kind of worked his way up, and it's something he's super, super passionate about. Now, his wife's dad owns an insanely successful metal manufacturing company for just like some of the biggest companies in the world. So he actually got a job through his father-in-law at some point, and, liked it, I guess was the word, but he's just you could hear in his voice, he's just so passionate about green and agriculture and all this stuff. And I was like, look, do you know that you're sitting on a gold mine? That's kind of how we started the conversation. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, pretty much what I can tell you that I do is I can turn anyone's passion into mega bucks in their bank account if they're willing to do the work. I'm not like a magician and I top you on the head and you go out there and make millions. But there's a very, very simple and easy to follow formula that if you're passionate about something, and especially you're willing to actually educate people on what you're passionate about, you could be a millionaire. I mean, 3 to 5 years, no questions asked. So,
by the way, this man agrees with you.
There you go, Mr. Tony. That's
all he talks about is to be relentlessly passionate, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah. So now, granted, it's not like this kid's starving on the street, okay? But they have a lot of money conversations within the family, and he's kind of capped at some sort of level, right? And you just couldn't see how he can see past that level.
Right.
So I asked him, well, what are you really passionate about? And he told me urban agriculture, like explaining to developers and people that have built buildings how to build gardens on their roof. And then he can actually show them how not only to share that garden with the people in the building, but how they can actually sell that to local markets and monetize it. And I'm like,
right.
Wow, that's genius, right?
Yeah.
Now, he's young. He's extremely passionate. I said, how much of your day do you spend reading stuff about all this green agriculture and this? He's like, hours, right? Mm-hmm. And he does this for free. He's not getting paid to do this. This is how I know someone is sitting on a gold mine. If your life is dedicated to some sort of craft, you are on your path to mastery. Masters get paid handsomely, no matter what. Now, here's the beauty of online. And this is the part that people don't understand. Every time I share it with them, they're like, what?
It's like they've never been online.
But the fact that most people, I should say, assume that in order to become a millionaire online or in order to become a millionaire period, you need to sell like hundreds of thousands or millions of goods. Okay. But the fact is, if you can find 1,000 people across the entire world that love the way that you perceive the world and educate them on something that they're passionate about, just 1,000 across the entire world, you will easily be a multiple 6-figure earner and most likely a 7-figure earner.
Yep.
So in a very, very short 10, 15-minute conversation, I kind of laid out a plan for this kid and basically explained to him, based on what he has education in, simply start a blog, a YouTube channel, start sharing some of this information. Because what you're doing and what Guy and I do, he said it better than I did. I said we kind of manufacture gurus online. He said we develop leaders online, which I think that's a way better way to say it. But once you become a thought leader in a certain niche, you will be sought after no matter what. Think about where you guys go to do any research, to do anything today. Book a vacation, buy a car, buy a golf club, anything. You go online and you find people that are experts in that field to give you their opinion on what you should and shouldn't do. Now, why do you listen to certain people over others? Is because that they, over time, have consistently provided value and content in a very specific niche, and thereby you assume that these people are experts. Now, most likely they are, because no one's going to be spending 3 to 5 years putting together content that they're not passionate or expert in.
Sure.
Right? So chances are, yes. Now, there's probably 5 or 6 of them, but there's one that you really love in any niche that you're passionate about. Why? They don't know more than the other guy. You just like the way they deliver that information to you.
Like a late night show host or something. Like
exactly.
There's tons of options, but you prefer one over the other.
And they all talk about pretty much the same thing. They all have the same guests. They all have like some version of a skit or another. That's a good example.
Yeah.
And so, if he just took his knowledge and did that online, in a year or 2 time, he will be thought of as someone who's really, really influential and an expert in this arena. By
the way, all that takes is just consistent quality content. putting out content over time that can easily be found by people who are looking for it, that establish you as somebody who is a credible authority in that field. But just by putting out one article doesn't establish you as an authority.
Exactly.
And that goes for all news agencies. That goes for all authors. It's like, one hit wonder does not make you a master.
Exactly. Yeah. But I said, could you come up with 52 tips that you could provide people about being, agriculturally green or urban agriculture or whatever it is? He's like, yeah, in my sleep. I said, great, write them down. Make a video and an article for every single one of those. You have content for an entire year, one a week. That is a tremendous amount of information to put out online. Now, I said, imagine you go to every single construction worker, every single construction development company, and you say, look, you're about to put up this building. I want to consult you for free on how you can turn your roof into a money-making part of the building. A piece of your property that normally will make you no money, I'm going to actually show you how that can give you ROI, and I'm going to do it for free. In return, I want X percentage of what I develop. What developer in their right mind says no to that kind of deal? It's they would have to be the dumbest developer on the planet. I say this to him, and he just looks at me like that was the moment where he's like, because he knows he can do that in his sleep. He can deliver that in his sleep.
And he's intuitively probably known his whole life that he wanted to do something like that. He just he couldn't figure out what the vehicle to put himself inside of to deliver what he wanted to do.
Exactly. So ultimately, think about this. We all walk around with puzzle pieces of who we are and what we think we can do and all that stuff. The thing that's missing for most of us is the picture on the damn box. Imagine if you actually knew when you were born, you received this picture and it showed you, look, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this is what your life is going to be. Wouldn't it be much easier to go about your day actually figuring out, yes, this is good for me to learn. Yes, I should master this. Yes, I should invest my time in that. Yes, I should talk to this person. It would be so crystal clear to you. There would be no doubt.
Yep.
But we don't know that. He, for the first time in his life, now I'm not saying he has the whole picture, right? And I offered to sit with him and actually map out the whole picture for him. But for the first time in his life, he actually saw how all these pieces that he's built over the years.
He put the frame together. He got the frame done.
Exactly. He pretty much got the frame together, and he got excited. I could just see he got excited. And I was like, you know what? I came home and I said, God, this is what we do.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think to myself, was that marketing skills that did that? I kind of think so. At least that was a huge piece of that puzzle, right? Because I think with marketing, you understand sales funnels so well, but then sales funnels has you start understanding processes, but not just this is what this person's going to do, mental processes. What's someone going to think as they're taking that process? I feel like that's the next part of where we're evolving right now is like, I can look at a business model and just understand what a person is experiencing as they're like introduced to the product, how they're going to feel going through it, and then what you want the exit for them to be. Like it's crazy, like I look at this skill and I think to myself, I've learned one of the most valuable skills on the planet, just in terms of business, because there are, reading Robert Greene's Mastery, something that it's really like hit home for me that I'm like, I've been saying it on repeat, like a tuki, like a parrot. Tuki is a parrot in Hebrew, is, that like there have been these demarcations of geniuses throughout our history of like an Einstein and like these big names like Gandhi and the guy with the electricity, I can't remember his name. Anyway, so like we have these people and we revere them and we look up to them and we're like, oh my God, this genius changed the world. But that's because they all lived in a time where there was no access to information. They either had to discover it or had to be passed down to you through lineage, which is why rich people stayed rich. There wasn't a lot of wealth building in those times. Look at the last 4 years in wealth building statistics. It will blow your mind. How many new millionaires and billionaires are on the planet? Why? Because there's access to information suddenly. What else does that tell you? That in the same way some people are choosing to make money with it, many of those people are geniuses. Many of them are geniuses. Some of them are just blatantly making money and raping, pillaging the planet. But the point is that information and action leads to genius. We've had this because neuroscience up until the last 10 years thought that the brain gets locked in, like once it's in, it's in. Now that it's plastic, that they've realized like you can reteach it all the time. It's up to you, man. Seriously. It is so fucking up to you. If you have an excuse, have it. That's what you got. But realize that's what's holding you back.
Yep.
That's it. Like there is no excuse anymore. You know, if you were like lived on a farm and then the closest library was 150 miles away and all you had was a bicycle, okay. Like I get it. That is difficult. And trust me, there's people who did that and ride to get clean water and education, even with those circumstances, right? Because those circumstances are what you make of them. But today, what excuse do you have? The information's out there for you. You want to develop genius? Develop genius. If there's anything that I think, so like right now what I'm seeing is that in this time in history, we should have an uprising of genius. Thousands of these people. We're looking at, like, we don't even know where to look anymore because they're everywhere, right? But what I love about what we've done, and we did it unconsciously, it's like the consciousness comes after that you're like, in the process of mastery. Because like you don't even recognize mastery till you feel like you're amongst other masters and you start having conversations. You're like, holy shit, I went through that too. Wait, you're going through that? I went through that? We're all going through that? That's the process. But the beauty about masters is that masters seek out masters. Right? Like, again,
we're inspired by masters.
We're inspired by masters. That's why I brought this guy. This guy is a blueprint. And Tim Ferriss is another one, right? Of people who've sought out the best in the world. That's what this whole book is about. He sought out the most wealthiest people in the world to understand what do they understand that people who don't make money or who are working for it instead of having it work for them do. And he broke it down to 7 simple steps. This is a new book that came out. My girlfriend happens to work with him, so I'm sleeping with an inside job. But like that's the whole book, right? So that's the beauty, guys. If you want to increase the quality of your life, master something. Just get in pursuit of mastery. I don't care if it's drawing with crayons. Be the best at drawing with crayons.
Yeah.
But you'll have these new eyes that allow you to see other people who are up to that too, and their attraction is like it's like magnetism. You just can't help but want to be around these people.
And you can do it in parallel. So a lot of people are like, well, I have to stop doing what I do to do that. Bullshit. You do what you're passionate about anyway. So how many people work horrible corporate jobs and are obsessed with golfing? Like, will leave their job at lunch to go hit golf balls to work on their swing. We'll spend all weekends doing that, right? Well, if it's something that you love and then you find like, wow, I have a great way of teaching my friends to do this, whatever, you can turn that into a career. It won't happen overnight. And it's going to take you learning some pretty incredible skills, you know, whether it's like marketing or public speaking or sales or whatever it might be, but you can make it happen. And it will take you no more than 3 years of consistent action, and you will have a multiple 6-figure business that you will jump out of bed every freaking day in complete and utter disbelief that this is your life and it's 3 years away. And Guy says it best. He goes, those 3 to 5 years are coming whether you do something about it or not. So the choice is ultimately yours. And the tools are there. And today it's easier than it's ever been to do that. You know, in that book, Robert Greene's Mastery, like these guys were apprentices in some sort of path, whatever they did, you know, like Charles Darwin, who were like, oh my God, he invented the whole thing about evolution. You know, his apprenticeship was cataloging different insects for years.
I think it was like 7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years of doing that.
Cataloging bugs.
Cataloging bugs was this man's job.
But then, he liked it though. He liked it.
He loved it. And then that turned into this opportunity to go onto the boat, and he ended up like rerouting to the Galapagos Islands. And just because he understood those cataloging for years and years and years, he understood that what he was looking at, something didn't align with what he had been taught before. And that's where literally evolution, the theory of evolution spawned. And I just want to share one other story, bro, because I haven't told you this, but this was super cool. I saw a video today about, do you remember Gran Turismo Academy? they had like a challenge.
Oh, like where if you drove fast enough, they would take you to like actually give you proper driving classes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a story there. The kid's super young. I think I don't think even he's 20. I think he's maybe like 19 years old. This kid went to GT Academy, won the national one, went to the international one. And he said it was the hardest thing he's ever done. Like once you're in the actual academy, you know, they're training you, you're running, you're lifting, you're doing things so beyond different mind games. And
are they putting them in real cars or still simulated
at the
driving?
academy, it's real cars.
It's real cars.
So basically, just to give people some background, because God knows what it is, Gran Turismo is a video game where you race cars. But at the time, it was the most live feeling video game.
It's a simulator. It's not like an arcade game.
Yeah, and it's gotten better and better and better through the years. So this kid was joking about how he played on the first one on like PlayStation 1 on a pixelated TV where pixels moved so slow, like you couldn't even see. And he still said it was the most fun he'd ever had. Eventually, he got into they put him in simulators, like real driving simulators. He won that event. They took the top 25 or 30 people around the US and brought them to like an actual racetrack, and they raced there. And then the winner of that went to an international contest. And then the winner of that got a year at Silverstone in UK to work with the GT race car team and actually develop their skills and get like a full paid ride for a year. This kid in 4 years went from playing a video game to now driving a GT Le Mans car, like an actual Le Mans car at a 24-hour endurance race. And he's not even 20 years old. And he's sitting there and he's like looking around. He goes, I can't believe my life. Yeah. And his message was exactly like ours. He said, if you love it, do it. Because you do not know the way the universe can align to have these things show up in your life. He goes, I played a freaking video game and now I'm driving, like I'm a race car driver through a video game. It's like you said, if you're great at crayons, be the best damn crayon drawer in the world. This kid happened to be the best damn video race car driver in the world.
Yeah, you have no idea where that stuff will lead. You really don't. And again, like all this stuff should come with like these results are not typical, but they're not typical because 97% of people just won't do what it takes.
99.
Those results should be super typical. But it's small little shifts in thinking between people who stop very early on in the process or like stop when it gets too hard and all this kind of crap we tell ourselves. I don't have time. I don't have money. It's just all excuses to not enable you to live the life that you want. You cannot tell me that in a country where 80% of people hate their job working a 9 to 5, that's when you were little. That's what you thought would be passion for you.
Yeah.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
So again, like there was a time in history 20 years ago, I'd be like, look, unless you really put in some hard effort, which is still effort, but again, like this has made it so there's a lot less effort, right? Like given constructs of the past, archetypes of the past, I would have never become the person that I am today. That's just not how I collected information. I wasn't the guy who was going to go to the library and do a decimal system and do research papers and do all that crap. Like that didn't work for me. So maybe that works for some people. And if that works for you, go be a nerd and put on a pair of glasses and get your Mozart in your ears and start reading. But if today you can sit on the toilet for, 20, 30 minutes and read an article a day, it's going to change your life about that topic. Yeah. So there's no reason anymore, guys. Like the only thing that can stop this world from going where we think it's supposed to go, not we as Ilan and I, like we as people, we see the world, what's happening, shit's burning. You want to be a positive impact on the world, live your purpose. You'll find that people who live their purpose are innately passionate about sharing what they're passionate about. That impacts people's lives.
Yeah.
Again, I don't care if you're drawing crayons. Talk to people about how much you fucking love crayons. Your passion is infectious. Tony Robbins' passion is infectious. I read all the testimonials in here from people who've done his programs. Every single one of them just talks about his passion. His passion is passion. This guy is a one in a bazillion passion. Because when you're around Tony, you're like, you can't even believe how this man like exudes energy out of his body. And I hope that, like I'm letting myself go that way. I'm not playing an actor for you guys now, but I'm letting you see my passion because I want you to understand that I'm not just like, yeah, I really like what I do. It's cool. Like I'm all about global transformation and whatever facet and how that looks to me, that's great. But how it looks to you, like get on board, man. Get on board.
Yeah. And again, is it going to take you busting your ass? 100%. Has anything that you've ever been successful in your life not taken busting your ass? And even if you miraculously obtain some sort of result without busting your ass, has that result ever lasted? Never. I've never met a single person that's happened to, right? Yeah. You bust your ass. But if I told you that you can bust your ass for the next 3 years and then live the rest of your time pursuing and earning a very substantial living from doing what you love, the only question is, am I willing to put in that work?
Yep.
And it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to, magically appear, but you consistently do that work for 3 years. There's not a single person, and we're in really high-end masterminds with 7, 8, even 9-figure earners. There's not a single person among them that did not put in the time and effort. And most of the time, it was 2 to 3 years of absolutely no results for these people. But they hit that time in 3 years, and somehow everything just falls into place. All the puzzle pieces, all the work, all the education, all of a sudden falls into place, and you get to live the life of your dreams. Yeah. And our job, Guy and I's job, SatoriPrime's job, is to show you how to make that happen.
Yeah. I mean, I just think to myself, like at 19, I did my first, type of transformative work, personal development, again, call it what do you want to call it. And did that for a decade and I had no idea why I was doing it, except for just something inside me was like, yeah, keep doing that. Now, the funny thing about life is that you can't connect the dots. Well, it's not funny. It's just how the time we perceive time, we can't connect the dots forward. But look at anything in your life, whether it's tumultuous, pleasurable, I don't care, whatever it was. Looking back, you can always find purpose. You can always find divinity in everything that's ever happened to you. Like, man, if that didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be the way that I am now at all. I couldn't have even met this person. I wouldn't have been capable in this job. I wouldn't have been XYZ, fill in the blank, right? But looking backwards, you can always connect the dots. These days, when I connect the dots and I think like the last 13 years, just like looking at everything, just be like, boop, 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 boop. How can I not see a plan? A divinity, right? But it was like what allowed me to be on plan was just listening to intuition.
Yeah.
Like my gut was stronger than my brain. Thank God. Most people just listen to their brain, which goes, don't do that. That's scary. Yep. Don't do that. People are going to think you're weird, right? Like, oh, he's over there just fucking drawing with crayons and he won't let go of the red one. He loves honeymoon red. I don't know, whatever the hell they call him these days, right? Like he just won't stop drawing with it. So guys, it's like, you have one life to live. There's 7 billion people on the planet, 7 billion different opinions, 7 billion different opinions about what you're going to do if they get the opportunity to give it. But one of the biggest regrets people have on their deathbed is they don't live their lives for themselves. They live it for other people. That's the biggest regret when people die. Like that's pretty much what's at stake here is like your whole life and that regret at the end of it. Now we're talking about even if we're talking about 5 years, we're talking about 1/20th of your life, of an average lifespan of a human being in the United States. Are you willing to not even give up with pleasure, go through a process for 1/20th of your life so the other 19/20ths of your life or whatever is left over is lived with passion and lived with grace and lived with beauty and lived with making a difference, and not just making a difference to the people around you, but hopefully making a global difference in the way that we perceive life on this planet so we could save whatever is left to save around here.
Yeah. Brilliant.
It really is what's at stake here, guys. And if all that means is pursuing your passion, your job's pretty fucking easy. Go do what you love that's going to save the planet. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. So look, if you guys, because I want to wrap this up, if you guys are in question, are in an inquiry of what it would take to completely transform your life in the next 3 years, just head over to our website. Just go to SatoriPrime.com. Read some of the blog posts, watch the videos. If you connect with our message, if you connect with the way, if you were lit up by this podcast, right? Get in touch with us, right? Because like I said, intuition, right? If your heart connects with this, that means that something is pulling you towards that life. Now you can resist it now, but I'm telling you at some point you're going to end up pursuing this. So again, those 3 to 5 years are coming whether you do something about them or not. If you want to do something about them, we would love to be a part of that journey. Our mission is to break down the walls to what people is possible. And we want to impact 100 million people by the year 2020. We have no freaking clue how that's going to happen, but that's our mission. And that's what gets us out of bed. So if you want to be one of those 100 million people, then definitely reach out to us.
And
Final words?
And if you're really like, no, like this fired you up, you're like, damn, I'm ready to take action. I want to know how you guys can help me with, like, I know what I'm passionate about. Come talk to us. We have a thing we call 30 for 30, SatoriPrime.com/30 for 30, number 30 for 30, like 4 is spelled out. And you can get on the phone with me and my brother. We charge 30 minutes, but it's just a show up fee, and that's refunded to you once the call is over. We just want to make sure that you're serious and not wasting our time. But it's definitely the best way for us to give you some guidance. And it might be working with us. It might not be. It might be like, you're not even there yet, or you should really go talk to this person. We have no idea what it's going to be until we talk to you, but it's the quickest way for us to get a feel for what it is you want to do in life. And it might not have anything to do with money at all, but I imagine for a lot of you guys, that's part of the equation too. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Thanks for letting me rant and rave. I usually enjoy it. I mean, I'm vastly passionate about waking people up. Got some plans in my head that have been brewing about how that 100 million is going to happen. But I think this is it. This is part of it. It's just having conversations with whoever's listening right now, sharing our experience, like many masters that have come before us have shared theirs, and hopefully our wisdom and our experience has inspired you to get off your ass, move a little bit, and get yourself on the path that makes a difference for you and the people in your life.
Awesome. Thanks for coming out, broski. And everyone else, love you all. We'll see you on the next Performance Enhancing Podcast.
All right, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Performance Enhancing Podcast. We've taken this pep talk and created a custom action guide so you know exactly what action steps to take now to grow your business. Just head over to SatoriPrime.com/podcast and download it for free. Also, please leave a comment and rate this podcast on iTunes. It'll help us get the word out. Thanks for listening. Now, go and implement. We'll see you next time.